The sweltering heat was the least of Danielle Lawson's problems. As the state attorney, she was used to high-pressure situations, but this was different. Frantically searching her SUV for a missing purse that held her entire identity, she was already late for a critical meeting. Then she saw the patrol car and the slow, predatory roll of a cop who'd already decided her story. Officer Mulligan didn't see a professional woman in a panic. He saw a black woman at a nice car, and his prejudice wrote the script. Despite her calm explanations and the sheer absurdity of the accusation, he slapped cuffs on her for attempted theft, mocking her claim of being a state attorney. But as the door to the holding cell clanged shut, Danielle knew the real crime wasn't hers. The power dynamic was about to violently and publicly flip. He had just arrested one of the most powerful lawyers in the city, and his badge wouldn't protect him from the reckoning to come. The afternoon sun beat down on the black asphalt of the courthouse parking lot, turning the expanse into a shimmering griddle. Danielle Lawson, her tailored blouse already sticking to her back, leaned into the open door of her SUV. A fine sheen of sweat coated her forehead as she frantically shuffled through a landslide of case files, legal pads, and discarded coffee cups on the passenger seat. Come on, where are you?" she muttered, her voice tight with a blend of heat and rising panic. Her purse was missing. It wasn't just a bag, it was a vault, containing her wallet, her bar card, her state-issued ID, and the flash drive for her closing argument in the high-profile corruption case she was due to present in 45 minutes. Her phone, clutched in her other hand, buzzed insistently for the fourth time. The screen flashed "Office." She ignored it. Finding the purse was the only priority. The low hum of an engine idling nearby barely registered at first. It was the sudden silence of it cutting off that made her pause. Slowly, she straightened up, her muscles tight. A patrol car was parked 2 slots over. Behind the wheel, an officer, middle-aged with a face that seemed permanently set in a scowl, was watching her. Not just observing, assessing. Danielle's heart sank. She knew that look. It was a gaze that saw past her blazer, past her professional demeanor, and fixed solely on the color of her skin. She offered a tight, hopefully disarming smile and turned back to her search, hoping he would move on. He didn't. The car door opened, and heavy boots hit the pavement. "Hey, you." The voice was rough, laced with authority that felt more like a threat. Danielle froze, her fingers still clutching a manila folder. She took a slow, steadying breath and turned to face him. The officer approached, his hand resting casually on his duty belt inches from his holster. His nameplate read Mulligan. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked, his eyes narrow slits of suspicion as they scanned her, the open car door, the messy interior. "I'm looking for my purse. I seem to have misplaced it. I'm late for a meeting." Mulligan's scowl deepened. "You got ID on you?" "Like I said, that's what I'm looking for. It's in my purse. This is my car." "Uh-huh," he interrupted, a dismissive sound that shut down her explanation. "Late for a meeting. Right. Step away from the vehicle." The command was sharp, leaving no room for debate. Danielle felt a cold knot of anger form in her stomach, but she complied. Taking 2 slow, steadying steps back, her hands held slightly away from her body in a universal gesture of non-confrontation. "This is my car," she repeated, her voice hardening just a fraction. "I just need to find my purse and I'll be out of your way." He wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on her, a mixture of cynicism and something darker, something triumphant. He took another step closer, his hand now resting squarely on the grip of his service weapon. "Lady, you're acting real suspicious. You expect me to believe you just lost your purse in this car?" He glanced at the SUV as if it were a stolen trophy. Danielle's patience, worn thin by stress and the oppressive heat, finally snapped. Yes, it is my car. I'm the state attorney for this county. I lost my purse. That's why I'm searching for it. The statement hung in the air. Mulligan raised an eyebrow, and a mocking, incredulous smile spread across his face. State attorney? Yeah, okay. You got any proof of that? 'Cause right now all I see is someone breaking into a vehicle. I told you my ID is in my purse, she said, the frustration seeping into her words. He took another step forward, his hand now resting squarely on the grip of his service weapon. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Danielle stared at him in utter disbelief. This wasn't happening. It was a cliché, a nightmare scenario she'd only ever heard about from clients. Arguing would be useless. He'd already written his narrative. With a deep breath that did nothing to calm her racing heart, she turned. The cold, hard metal of the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, ratcheted too tight. The shock of it, the visceral humiliation, sent a wave of nausea through her. You are under arrest, Mulligan said, his voice cold and flat, for suspicion of vehicle theft. He led her to the back of his patrol car, a perp walk of 20 feet that felt like a mile. As he pushed her head down to guide her into the cramped, plastic-smelling back seat, she cast one last furious look at her own vehicle. This wasn't over. The ride to the precinct was silent. Danielle sat rigid, the cuffs biting into her wrists, her mind racing through legal statutes and procedural violations. She watched Mulligan through the partition, his smug reflection in the rearview mirror. He'd already won, in his mind. At the station, the humiliation continued. He led her past curious glances to a holding area, refusing to loosen the cuffs. Can I at least make my phone call? She asked, her voice clipped with controlled rage. You'll get your call when I say you get it. He sneered, leaning against a wall. Besides, who you gonna call? The mayor? He finally, grudgingly, uncuffed Hat and pointed to a wall-mounted phone. Danielle dialed a number she knew by heart. Mark Edwards? A calm voice answered. Mark, it's Danielle. I'm at the Central Precinct. I've been arrested. Arrested? His tone shifted instantly from calm to razor-sharp. For what? They think I was trying to steal my own car, she said, the absurdity making the words taste bitter. There was a brief, stunned silence on the other end. Don't say another word to anyone. I'm on my way. When Mark Edwards, her chief deputy and one of the best litigators in the state, strode into the precinct 20 minutes later, the atmosphere shifted. He was immaculate in a gray suit, his presence radiating an authority that wasn't born of a badge, but from sheer, formidable intellect. He located her immediately, his eyes taking in the scene with cold fury. Are you all right? She replied, tightly. He turned to the first officer he saw. I want to speak to whoever is in charge now. That was when Mulligan sauntered over, his bravado slightly diminished, but still present. You are a lawyer? I am, he said, his voice dangerously smooth. And you are the officer who arrested the state attorney without probable cause, failed to run her plates, and ignored every one of her assertions. You're about to have a very bad day. Mulligan's smirk faltered. State attorney? That's the story she's sticking to? It's not a story, it's a fact. And if you don't uncuff her and process her release this instant, the lawsuit I file will land on this precinct like a ton of bricks. The doubt was finally, blessedly, dawning on Mulligan's face. He looked from Mark's furious certainty to Danielle's icy calm. He muttered something under his breath and went to find his sergeant. The unraveling was swift and brutal. The sergeant, a weary-looking man named Evans, took one look at the situation and paled. He verified Danielle's identity with a single call. The apology he offered was hollow, drowned out in the roaring in Danielle's ears. She was released, the charges voided as if they'd never existed. But the damage was done. The next morning, Danielle Lawson walked into Chief of Police David Hernandez's office, with Mark by her side. Mulligan was already there, sitting stiffly, his earlier arrogance replaced by a sullen, defensive posture. "Chief Hernandez," Danielle began, her voice not loud but filling the room. "This isn't a discussion about a simple mistake. This is about an officer who saw a black woman and saw a criminal. He ignored procedure, he ignored my rights,